Good morning, and thank you for attending. We appreciate you signing in this morning and being with us. I'm John Hobbins, and along with Sam Wiley and Nick Yon, we co-chair the Education Committee. And before we get started this morning, we have a few events coming up, which I want to remind you about. This Friday, March 10th, we have the Anatomy of a Golf Lesson with our own Michael Breed. And what Michael's doing is he has invited us to his golf academy. So we're going to go in there and Zoom. And there's also room for about a dozen attendees. There's still a few spots left. So Michael's going to show us how he built his golf academy in his home, and then also take us through some of the things that he's done over the years in developing his golf instruction. And then on March 16th, Jonathan Gold is going to do a wage and hour and a deferred compensation, which is something that affects all of our golf professionals, both from a standpoint of operating your shops and deferred compensations, a new PGA of America program that's going to give us a deferred compensation, as the name implies, for volunteer work that we do. So you can go on to the section website, and there's a link there to sign up for the deferred compensation. And then on the 16th, we'll have that. And then on the 21st, we'll be out with Kirk Grigori at Pete's Golf Shop in Mineola. And Kirk is going to take us through golf equipment fitting and review of the products for this coming year. So all three should be very interesting and help both the head professional and all the assistants in your operations in the upcoming season. Other events coming up in April are our spring meeting. Okay, so there will be a link up shortly for our spring meeting, which is going to be over at Rayburn. And then on Tuesday, the 25th, we're at Trump Golf Links Ferry Point. That's going to be our all-day educational seminar. We're going to be indoors on the early part of the day until it gets a little bit warmer. Then we're out on the chipping putting greens area and the full swing area. James Seekman, who teaches probably 12 to 15 tour players at any given time and has over 50 tour wins with his short game techniques, is going to be doing interactive lessons with some of our professionals as well as some amateurs. And Bernie Najar, who is the golf coach to World Long Drive competitors, is also going to be there and do some stuff with force plates. And Foresight's going to have a number of units on site so that we can use those. And also Foresight's our sponsor. So they're going to do a number of things that are interactive and give us some pretty good data. So check a calendar on the website, and let's get you and your assistants out there for the day. Today's is a program that Sam Wiley came up with the idea. Sam's the co-chair of the education department, and I have this running thing with Sam that anytime Sam speaks, I'm going to listen, because Sam always comes up with very unique ideas. And I was thinking that, when Sam brought this to us and the education committee considered it, it's very pivotal that we sit here today and we listen to what Sam and John are going to have to say, because, to me, your success as a head professional, as a first assistant, is all dependent upon the success that you have with your staff and the culture that you create. John Eades is the CEO of LearnLoft, and it's a leadership development company. And I think that's all you need to know right there, leadership development. So I've been around this industry for a number of decades, and my ability to get things done and to lead has always been something that I've learned not only through classes and education, but through experience. And I am not one who believes that there are born leaders any more than I believe that a child is born and learns to walk in the first few seconds of life, much like wildlife do, right? So everything I've ever done that's improved my leadership qualities is something I have learned, classes I have attended, and people who have mentored me. And that's why I thought this had a really good impact on us, because I think as golf professionals, you're in an environment today that we've never seen before, as far as wage and hour, as far as creating a culture where you are attracting your assistants, because at any given time, the Met section has 20 to 30 assistant positions available at really good clubs. So you're in strong competition with all of your peer group to get good staff. And to me, the best way to keep your job, the best way to perform and make your members happy and your boards happy is through your leadership. And so without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Sam and John Eades and enjoy our seminar. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. Again, thank you to Caitlin and Noah at the section office for helping put everything together today again. And welcome to John. John's a busy man, and I appreciate him taking time out of his day to help our PGA members. A little more about John. He was named one of LinkedIn's top voices in management and leadership, where his weekly newsletter has over 273,000 subscribers. He's the author of Building the Best, 8 Proven Leadership Principles to Help Elevate Others to Success, and is also the host of the John Eades podcast, which has over 1 million downloads. He's also been highlighted at Inc.com and at CNBC Money and more. On top of that, John is a golfer, not only just a golfer, but a great golfer. John graduated from the University of Maryland as an all-conference performer on the golf team. He has been fortunate to win the North Carolina Amateur, the Carolinas Mid-Amateur, and the Charlotte City Amateur 3 times. He resides in Charlotte, North Carolina with his wife, Amy, and children, John and Lucy. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John. And as we go through, everybody, we'd certainly welcome questions. We'll probably take them more towards the end, but if you could put them in the chat, Noah and myself will help navigate that. So John, welcome.
I am excited to be here, Sam, and I appreciate everybody joining. I'm going to start today with a little bit of a story, and that is I am based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had this wonderful fall evening in Charlotte. So I did what any great dad would do. I got out the fire pit. I got the golf net out. I mean, we do work at home, as you can see here. I even got my my favorite drink out. I got the ribs on the grill, some broccoli next to us, and we had this wonderful fall evening. But something happened on this wonderful fall evening. I got distracted. And I didn't get distracted in a little way. I got distracted in a big way. And when I woke up in the morning, I noticed an enormous hole in my deck. My little daughter, Lucy's like, "What did you do, Dad?" Now, I share this story and this example with you because you're going to have the opportunity today in a virtual environment with your phone, your computer, your email. You might be at the club. I'm not sure where you are today at home. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to get distracted. And what we've learned over the last 11 years coaching and developing leaders is leaders don't often have a talent problem. They have a focus problem. If you're willing and able to stay as focused as you possibly can be with me for the next 45 minutes, I just want you to tell me yes in the chat. Just type yes in the chat. And I'm going to look at that chat right now. We're going to be using it the whole day. If you're going to stay focused, I want you to tell me yes in the chat. And in exchange for that, I'm going to give you my very best to share ideas and principles to help you in your pro shop or in your culture. And I see it, Justin and Jeff and Will and Ryan and Jay. This is awesome. Corey, wonderful. Justin, Haley, Chris, love it. Your commitment means something. There's an old principle. It says motivation follows commitment. Motivation follows commitment. So the fact that you're committed to being focused and you're going to really lean into this idea of how do I create an elite culture in my pro shop? You're going to be motivated because the commitment that I'm just seeing. Yannick, Patrick, Kevin, Mitch, Chris, wonderful. We are going to use this chat today. So if you hear something that resonates with you, or you have a question that you want to add to the conversation, I want you to add it right to the chat, and we will either cover it at that particular time if it fits, or we will cover them all at the end. This session is about you. And I want you to know that if there's something that's not clear or you're unsure about or you question, to use the chat, and we will absolutely cover it either in the moment or at the end. All right, you guys ready to get started? No one wants to work in a pro shop where one person does all the work, where one person takes on all of the responsibility, where team members slack off or they cut corners, or where one pro has to micromanage everything going on in a pro shop. And if you haven't already worked in a pro shop like that, you one day might. And that is a really sad thing because it causes burnout. It causes people to leave. It causes issues in the industry, and it creates this constant state of frustration. No one wants to work in a pro shop like this, and I get it, but it happens every single day across the world and in pro shops in every single state. Now, what we've learned is that most leaders, particularly head pros, they just say, hey, if we work harder, it'll get better. Or if I change clubs and I just hope that I get a better head pro if I'm a first assistant. Or we have other people that say, hey, I'll just change clubs and hope I have better members. All of those are not bad ideas, but the answer is something different. The answer is much like the puzzle that you just saw. The answer is to construct a culture. Don't go chase it somewhere else. Go construct a culture right in your pro shop today. Now, when I say the word culture, how do you define it? In the chat, what I want you to do is when I say that word culture, what either comes to mind or how do you define that word culture? I want to know right from the industry, right from the Met section pros, what do you define and how do you define culture? Use that chat that we were just covering and tell me how you define culture. Okay, so let's see. We have, I forgot to make an announcement. For the participant that participates the most, we have an awesome gift that we're going to be sending you. So make sure you lean into that. It's not a competition, but it's a competition. Okay. So Ryan B says interaction between individuals. John Hobbins, the working atmosphere. John Dagan, accountability. Jeff Massa, environment. What does culture mean to you? Jay, attitude and mission. It's an interesting one. Attitude and mission. Greg Biscotti, a way of life. It's a great definition. A way of life. A culture is a way of life. I'm going to share a definition with you so we're all on the same page and we can get aligned today. So if you have somewhere where you can take notes, this would be the time. A culture is the shared values and beliefs that guide thinking and behavior. The shared values and beliefs that guide thinking and behavior. And you're probably thinking, okay, this makes some sense. The way of life, this shared value, these fundamental beliefs that we hold to be true that then ultimately guide everyone's thinking and behavior. And I love the example of Chick-fil-A. I know it's everywhere, but if you go into a Chick-fil-A, no matter where you are, whatever Chick-fil-A or area of the country that you're in, when you say thank you, how do they respond? It's my pleasure. It doesn't matter which Chick-fil-A you go in, their response is, it's my pleasure. Now you could be thinking, well, there's not the manager or the head pro or whatever. They're not standing next to them telling them what to say. There's not someone right there being like, you have to say, it's my pleasure. See, it's my pleasure doesn't happen by accident. It's a shared belief that guides the behavior of all the employees in thousands of locations. It is an example of culture. And when you hear a team member say to you, it's my pleasure, how do you feel? You feel good. You feel like you're welcome. You feel like you belong. And of course, the food is great, but it's not the only thing that's great. the people and the culture in those restaurants around this culture of excellence is unbelievable. And that is just one example of a shared value and a belief that guides the thinking and the behaviors of the staff. Now, what we've learned over the last 11 years studying organizations, from Fortune 100 organizations down to small nonprofits to pro shops, it doesn't matter what it is. What we've learned is that there's 5 levels of today what we're calling pro shop culture. 5 levels of pro shop culture. And as I go through these 5 levels and I describe these 5 levels to you, what I would like for you to do is think about where your pro shop is today. Where your pro shop is today. So the first level of pro shop culture, I'll put this full screen so you can see it, is toxic. Toxic. This is a club that is stagnant. Any growth was only related to the pandemic. Lots of high churn and burn turnover. Talented employees come and go. There's a poor public perception. People even avoid coming into the pro shop altogether when they come to the club. They want no part of going in that pro shop. Bad inventory, really a bad experience. Now, the club, I like to associate this, and don't laugh, it's changed a lot, I'm sure. But back in 2002, when I was at the University of Maryland, that was a little bit of the culture of the pro shop in this club. This is a really great picture of what the facility looked like back then. It does not look like that back then. But you wanted no part of going in the pro shop. It was just a painful experience. No one liked to be there. You couldn't even get a smile out of the staff. The assistants turned over so fast, you couldn't even remember their names. It was a toxic culture. Now, level 2, where you might find yourself, is deficient culture. This is a culture that is resting on our past accomplishments. They're behind the curve in engagement with members. There's really no plans for the development of people. There are very few head pros that come from within. Same pros are there for a really long time because there's not a lot of growth and development for career growth or progression. Shops like this are very reliant on doing things the way that we've always done them. A lack of innovation could be a good way to say it. Now, I don't like to do this to my own club because I've been there 11 years and it's a great place because of the members. But my club in Charlotte, Cedarwood Country Club, I would say is a deficient culture. Head pro that's been there a long time, staff that's been there a long time, very rarely coming up with new ideas or creating a great experience. It's just kind of the way we've always done things. And boy, do I want it to change. All right. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's not. No judgment. This is a judgment-free Met section webinar. So level 3 is what we call a common culture. This is where there's some values, there's some mission, there's some beliefs that are known and visible. It attracts talent, sometimes through the brand or the club, but certainly we're doing a good job in retaining and keeping team members inspired. There's a good public perception, not just because of the property, but there is but the pro shop, the experience you have. There's some great personal relationships, both internally and with members. I like to think of it like this way. There's the member guest is awesome at these clubs, but outside of it, it's just pretty common. It's a phenomenal experience for 3 or 4 days, and then it kind of goes back to the way it runs the rest of the year. That's a common culture. Now, this is coming into your section a little bit. So if you're a pro at one of these clubs that I'm about to mention, these are just from my personal experiences playing these places and experiencing a 4-ball there or a tournament there or the staff there. So it could not be exactly right, just could be my experience. The club I think of this is Hollywood Golf Club in Deal, New Jersey. It is a phenomenal facility, old school. The head pro comes out to the first tee to welcome you when you tee off. But that's about where it ends. Again, a good common, good culture. I'm not sure what the turnover looks like, but I always think of Hollywood golf course, level 5 or level 4, but the pro shop level 3, if you will. Okay. Level 4 culture. We're moving up the chain here. This is an advanced culture. This is a club that attracts top talent. It attracts the best people, just like John was talking about at the beginning. The pros are sharing best practices with videos with members or on social media. The club is constantly showing off all the really good things that they're doing for their members, and they're making them aware of it. The staff genuinely likes working there. They take great pride in being an employee at this club and a team member. The customer service or the member surveys at the end of the year, the golf shop is off the charts. I mean, it is the highest rated in the club, not just in the, but it is doing a great job. The communication out of that pro shop is excellent. And it's a very collaborative work environment, shared responsibility, people challenging themselves to take things to the next level. This is an advanced pro shop culture. Now, the club that I think about when I think of this is none other than Wingfoot. When you go to the Anderson, it's just this great experience with the pros and the members and the people running the event. It's just a phenomenal experience. You have your club's flag outside, and they get you to send it in advance. There's all this work that they do behind the scenes to create an excellent culture at this club. I'm sure every club has issues, but that was just my experience of an advanced culture, Wingfoot. Now we're getting to level 5, and that's what we call an elite culture. This is known by members and their guests as just being an elite service, an elite club, an elite pro shop. The culture's viewed from the bottom up. Everybody that comes in has a role to play. The employees live out that culture on a daily basis. You get a lot of head pros that come out of facilities and pro shops like this because the head pro knows that their job is not to create more followers, it's to create more leaders. Other clubs, they're so good. They look to mimic what they do to improve their pro shop and the behaviors of their people. Now, I've never had a better experience than at this little place called Pine Valley. When I went there as a guest, not only, this is a different story for a different day, but I almost got divorced over a Pine Valley trip. I mean, when I got the invite, I had to go, and my wife wanted no part of it. But we survived 11 years. Kudos to Amy for sticking with me. But I tell you that story because the minute we walked on property, we were treated like any other member that walked in that club. And I would say even above the members. It was excellent. It was elite from start to finish, the way we were treated as guests. It was fantastic. The pro shop, the way they when we walked in the door, the way it was so good, it wasn't even funny. And yes, one day I would love to be invited to that invitational, that Mid-Am invitational at the end of the year. That's how good of an experience it had on me, not just the golf course. Now, here's the question that we have for you today. The 5 levels of culture, I'll put them up one more time. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. In the chat, if you're comfortable, I want you to tell me what level of culture exists in your pro shop today. Is it level 1, toxic? Is it level 2, deficient? Is it level 3, common? Level 4, advanced? Or level 5, elite? What level of culture exists in your pro shop today? 3. Okay. Again, this is no judgment. This is across the board. This is an opportunity to grow and develop and get better. It is not judgment. Okay. 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay. 3, 4. Excellent. Now, again, if you're not comfortable sharing that, I just want you to write it down in your notes today. What level of culture exists in my pro shop today? And the reason I want you to write it down is because when we write something down, now we make a statement of where we are so we can grow, develop, and get better. Because what we're about to do for the next 20 minutes or so is we're going to look for some specific strategies to help you improve the culture in your pro shop with some tactical ideas and strategies. Now, by how on the call of the 55 or so, how many head pros do we have on the call today? Just put HP or director of golf, DG, if you're a head pro or a director of golf today. And I just want to get a sense for how many assistants versus head pros versus director of golfs that we have. Just high level. Just give me an idea there in the chat. Okay, I'm watching it. Good. Director of instruction owner, excellent. So the reason why I'll keep looking at it. So keep it going. Jim, John, excellent. Justin, head pro, wonderful. Head pros or directors of golf tend to have the most influence on the culture of a pro shop. They can modify and change it the most, but they're not the only ones that can change it or modify it. If you're a first assistant, a second assistant, a teaching instructor in that pro shop, you also can impact the culture in a big way. It won't be as easy as you to transform the culture, but you certainly can impact it. So as we go through these elements of an elite culture and you looking for some ideas and strategies to improve your culture moving forward, what I would love for you to do is just to think about your world. What can I do to get us to go from level 2 to a level 3? From a level 3 to a level 4. We're not going to go from a toxic culture to a level 5. That's not how it works. But we can go from 1 to 2, or 2 to 2.5, or 2.5 to 3, because that's how excellence works. It's iterative. It's a process of exceeding ordinary standards. Okay, so keep that in mind. You are the catalyst here to create an elite culture in your pro shop, no matter where your shop is on this journey. Okay, so the 4 elements of a team culture that we're going to cover today, we're going to cover safety, unity, positivity, and energy. You can take a screenshot of that on your phone. You can do however you would like. Safety, unity, positivity, and energy. And I love to start with safety, because most people are like, safety, why is that a big part of our culture? And I don't know a better way to start than with a story of the golf industry. And as you can see there, the X-Hot 3-wood, there was the current CEO of Callaway Golf is a man named Chip Brewer. He's an excellent man. I got a chance to know him and interview him and spend time with him. Well, when he came over from Adams Golf, the company was struggling at an enormous clip. It was really down in the dumps. And in the first couple of weeks after getting to know his team and his people and the company, a group of designers brought this 3-wood in to show them for their launch in December. And Chip Brewer looked at this 3-wood and without hesitation, he said, our founder, Eli Callaway, created this company to make products that were demonstratively superior and pleasingly different. This product that you just brought to me does not live up to that vision. Each of you are talented professionals, and I want you to make products that you're proud of. I don't care how many things we fail on, but we're going to launch products that are demonstratively superior and pleasingly different. Go back to work and we'll launch a different product when you're ready. That product that they launched was the X-Hot 3-wood. And it changed the business for Callaway. And as you see the kind of progress that they've made today, they've continued down that journey of demonstratively superior and pleasingly different. Now, I don't just share this story because I like Callaway and it's what I play. I share it because what Chip Brewer did was he created a safe culture where we could fail. We're going to set a really high standard of what's expected, but we have safety He said, it doesn't matter how many things we fail on. It matters that we get it right. So if you have somewhere where you're writing down notes, here's what I want you to write down. Before people can perform at their best, they need to feel safe. If you want your instructors to perform at their best, they need to feel safe. Like they can stretch the limits of the teaching or the creating a video or doing things outside of the comfort zone, not in fear of what bad thing might happen. Let's use safety in the context of playing great golf. Do you play your best golf when you're looking at the water or you're looking at the bunkers or you're afraid of what bad thing might happen? Or do you play your best golf when you're thinking of the good things that can happen and you're focused on where I want to hit the ball, not where I don't want to hit the ball? Now, in your pro shop, it might be different. A lot of people think safety, they only think physical safety, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is psychological safety. Google did I know this is tech, but I think it is referable here. What they found, they studied over 180 teams, 37,000 employees, and they found the number one element of high performing teams was psychological safety. And this is when team members feel safe to take risks and can be vulnerable in front of each other. So I'm putting it right on your pro shop right now, no matter what your role is. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself. Do the professionals feel they have the freedom to create new tournaments, to try new brands, to develop new traditions? Is your answer 1? It couldn't be any worse. Is it 3? They meet expectations, or we meet expectations? Or is it 5? It couldn't be any better. Do we do things the way we've always done them, or are we looking for ways to create a better experience for our employees and our members? Do people have the freedom to go try new things? That is what a safe culture looks like. Are we going to fail sometimes? Absolutely. Will we create a new tournament and we don't get the sign up that we expected? Possibly. But just maybe, we create something that creates a new tradition at our club that people are like, oh, I want to be a member there, not be just because the third hole, but because this tournament they have that's been named after our head pro that's been gone for a long time, and they do it so different. It's awesome. Okay, so number one element of an elite culture, I want you thinking, hey, how's the safety in my pro shop? The second area of an elite culture, an element of an elite culture, is unity. Unity. Now, this one might seem a little strange for a pro shop, but there's a psychological theory called the need to belong. And what researchers have found is that the quality and the quantity of social relationships is linked to your mental health, your morbidity, and your mortality. If there's a takeaway here, it's this: solid connections at work are as important to your health and happiness as food, water, and shelter. I mean, that is a big claim. But if you're miserable at work, how happy are you in life? If you're spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week at work in the summer in a pro shop or with your members and you hate coming to work, how happy are you going to be when you go home? People in your pro shop have to feel like they belong. Like, I'm an important part of this team, and I love coming to work here because I'm connected to my colleagues. So here's the principle that I want you to write down. Unity and belonging requires proactivity. Unity and belonging requires proactivity. This does not happen by accident. It happens because we do things intentionally. I'm going to give you a couple ideas, things that we've learned that could work well. You're going to do you. I get that. Maybe we have a pro 4-ball tournament just for our pros on a Monday, where we pair up and we go play and we give out a belt or something to the team that wins. Maybe it's a 3-hole tournament, a 6-hole tournament, a 9-hole tournament, something that creates this interaction between our staff and creates some competition. Maybe we do team building events together. I know Sam takes his staff out west to go play golf together. What a great idea. Even if you can't do it financially, something that gets them off site where they can build strong bonds together. And if you need nothing else, have them come in before the pro shop opens on a Monday or whatever it may be, and you get a little room in the clubhouse and you do an exercise called Hero Highlight Hardship, where each staff member shares who's a hero in their life, what's a hardship that they've experienced, and then what's a highlight that they would want to tell their colleagues about. And that creates this vulnerable environment where we get to know people on a human level. You'll be amazed at the bonds that start to build when your staff does this together versus just coming in and starting work. So here's the question I want you to ponder. I'll go full screen. Does the staff work in silos between the old guard and the new guard? Couldn't be any worse. Meets expectations. It couldn't be any better. Does my staff work really well together? Are we a team or are we a collection of individuals? Don't get me, I'm not going to get myself on my own road trip here, but a team by definition is a group of people working together to achieve a common goal. So if we don't know what we're trying to achieve this year in 2023 as a pro shop, there's a good chance you just have a bunch of individuals that just come to work to collect a paycheck and to be in an industry that they are passionate about. What are you trying to achieve as a group this year? That will unite you. That will absolutely unite you. If you're in a teaching, how many students do we want to impact this year? How many strokes do we want to shave off of handicaps at our club this year? Create some really great, interesting goal. And so your people have meaning to go achieve it. Imagine just for a second, if your members at your club, you had a goal to shave 100, 200 shots off handicaps this year, and you looked at those gen numbers at the end of every month and you start to collect, hey, how are we doing as a staff? Are we investing in our members to help them improve their game? Boy, that would be a cool goal to have. I don't know if anyone's ever done it before, but man, I'd love to be at a club where we're on a mission to reduce the handicaps at our club, not have a bunch of sandbaggers. Okay, number 3, the third way to improve your culture today is to create positivity, to make sure it's a positive work environment. Now, there's an old researcher that came up with this idea of the heliotropic effect that happens in flowers and plants. And what it basically says is that a plant, if it's up against a wall, if there's sun outside, it will naturally start to lean towards that light. Now, if you put it in darkness, that plant will die, lay down, and die. And what it shows us is that all things, plants and humans included, are inclined to move towards things that are life-giving and avoid things that are life-depleting. And a great example of this is a lamp. Now, I broke this lamp last week when I dropped it, so no judgment. But what you get the opportunity to do as a leader, as a head pro or assistant pro or director of golf, you get to decide if you're going to be a light and bring positive energy into your pro shop and your members every single day, or you're going to bring darkness. What kind of leader are you? Now, when we talk about positivity and culture, we hear a lot, well, that's just fluffy stuff, John. Look, what I want you to write down from a principle today is this: being positive doesn't guarantee results. I'm not saying that it does, but it does guarantee that other people want to be around you. And our minds, our mindset, which is a protein powder that is wired into our brain that's based upon what we think about, when we tend to think about more positive things and we bring more positive energy into our pro shop, guess what happens? Good things tend to happen. I don't know what kind of culture exists in your organization as it relates to positivity, but I do know your job as a leader is to root out that negative energy, that person that constantly talks about the negative and talks about what's wrong or complains about the same members or the same co-worker. Your job as a leader, as my friend John Gordon says, is to eliminate the energy vampires, those people that suck the positivity right out of a room. Here's the question I want you to ponder today. Does each team member say positive and think positive before going to anything negative? 1, it couldn't be any worse. 3, it meets expectations. Or 5, it couldn't be any better. If you want to change the culture in your pro shop, it starts with being more positive across the board. And that positivity starts with you. All right. The last element of an elite culture is energy. Energy. I'll put it full screen here. And I love my guy, PJ Fleck. He's the head football coach at, this says basketball, but it's the head football coach at Minnesota. And what PJ Fleck, when he was hired from Western Michigan, he brought a mantra to Minnesota. And it's called row the boat. Row the boat. I don't know if we have any Minnesota fans in the building, but what it stood for is the oar is the energy that each person had to bring to the team. The boat was the sacrifice that each team member had to make. And the compass was where we were headed as a group, directed them toward success. He brought a different kind of energy to Minnesota, a row the boat mentality. The great part is they went 1-11 the first year, and every single year they've gotten better, and it's included multiple trips to the Big Ten championship game. I don't know where they're going to go long term, but I know the culture has great energy in it. What about your pro shop? Here's the principle I want you to write down as it relates to energy. Part of a leader's job is to create energy that inspires action. Great energy can inspire somebody to do something that they never thought possible. I know in the title for this segment, it said, create a culture that motivates. But great leaders don't motivate because motivation comes from within. Great leaders inspire. They breathe life into people so they can go do more, be more, become more, become the very best version of themselves. Play in that section tournament when they don't even think they're ready. So they get the rep in and they're encouraged to do that. Part of your job as a leader, no matter where you are, no matter if you're a head pro, director of golf, director of instruction, is to inspire people, to breathe life into them. So here's the question I want you to ponder here. Part of a leader's job is to create energy that inspires action. Is the energy on your staff consistent with the best clubs in America? Do they come in with excitement and ready to go to work and to live out the mission or achieve that goal? Or do they come in to check the proverbial time clock? I don't know. Only you can answer that question. But you're also the answer to that question. You can change it. So there you have it. If you want to if you want to improve the culture in your pro shop, focus on these 4 elements. Can I create a safer place to work? Psychologically safe, not necessarily physically safe, but of course we need physical safety. Can I create a more united team? Can I bring them together as one, a group of people trying to achieve a common goal in 2023? Can I make them feel like they belong? Can I make a more positive culture? Can I talk about, and we talk about the good things that are happening, the gains before the gaps? And then lastly, can I create some real energy in my pro shop around a mantra this year, something that excites us, just like PJ Fleck and Row the Boat? Now, what happens when you do or you don't create an elite culture? This is the way I like to think about it. When you create an elite culture, members and colleagues notice. It shows up on those evaluations. You're evaluated for promotions, promotional opportunities. The engagement in your pro shop goes up, and your personal engagement at work goes up. You have more success more often, and you take more responsibility in your life, and you don't blame other people. And you're given more responsibility in your pro shop. Now, if you don't help create an elite culture, your members and colleagues avoid you, whether you know it or not. This is my favorite. I'll go full screen. You're either demoted or you're put in some career purgatory where you're just like in the same role for a long time with very little pay increases. It's like, we need someone to work this job, but you're not someone that's helping bring an elite culture. So you just kind of stick with what you're doing for a long time. We have very limited engagement or lower engagement in our pro shop from employees. I would say average performance at best. And then people are given less responsibility for the things that happen in their pro shop. Now, I share all of this with you not to create some fear-mongering decision, but I share this with you because constructing an elite culture is for you. But only you can choose it. Your members can't do it for you. The board can't do it for you. Nobody can do it but you. And if you're not that head pro, if you're not that director of golf, what principles can you take from today that you can improve the culture right from your 20 square feet, right from your role? Because culture starts small and it grows and it builds. You can choose it. Now, I'm going to close with a quick story. As I mentioned at the beginning, my wife, Amy, we've been married 12 years. And last year, she went to go get some help for just some mental health wellness stuff she had going on. I'm really proud of her. And she went away for a month or so, came back. She's doing wonderful, super proud of her. But she did something really interesting. While she was gone, she wrote these handwritten notes to my 10 and 8-year-old. And every single day they would reach their hand in that bag and they would pull out a handwritten note from their mom. And one particular day, my Lucy pulls out this note and she opens it. And it says this: "It's not about what it is. It's about what it can become." Dr. Seuss. And in that moment, I couldn't be more proud of my wife for the work that she was doing to become a better version of herself and to become healthier. I couldn't help but think about my kids and what they're becoming. And I can't help but think about it for you. Many of you work at really great golf courses, at phenomenal facilities and what I believe in is one of the richest areas of golf in the world. I mean, I'm obsessed with playing the golf courses up there. Good, bad, and different. Many of you have been in the industry a really long time. But if we take this quote seriously, it's not about what it is today. It's about what it can become That's what I want you to focus on. What's the future of your career look like? What's the future of your culture in your pro shop look like? What kind of culture do you want to create, to construct? It's up to you. And it's my hope that some of the ideas and the strategies that we covered in this session will help your pro shop do just that. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It meant the world to me. I'm passionate about this game that's given so much to me. If you need help, there's a free newsletter on LinkedIn called Building the Best. There's a podcast called the John Eades Podcast that you can get wherever you listen to podcasts. You can go to learnloft.com and there's a newsletter on there, a sign up for that if you prefer. And certainly any information there that you might need that could help you on your journey, please feel free. And thank you so much to Sam and John and the entire team for allowing me to be here.
That's great, John. Thank you so much. That was, I appreciate you sharing, obviously some of the vulnerabilities that, happen in everybody's life, and that we, it's amazing to see what your daughter had written for your wife to pull out of the hat. So that was awesome. Again, I just think it's so inspirational, and the timing of this is so important to us. We focus on all the golf type stuff that we, playing, teaching, running a great golf shop. But as we discussed, the culture really means everything, not only to the team, but to the membership and their guests. So, as we start our golf seasons this year, and it's a great way to get us energized, get us to look into the mirror and ask the tough questions, and bring our staff on board and kind of ask the tough questions to see how we can work as a team instead of being in silos and trying to be the best that we can be. So, so thank you. I would encourage, everybody, if they have any questions, maybe about their particular situation or their operation, or just a general question, to kind of weigh in on the chat. I see John Hobbins made a note there about
You're welcome.
advancing the different cultures.
There's one thing I want to add here, and I probably missed it. And culture is this interesting thing. It exists in every pro shop that is on here today, whether they know it or not. So let's keep that in mind as you think about your culture. It exists. The experience that your members have, the experience that your employees have, it exists today, whether you know it or not. But it's a little bit like one of my mentors said, it's a little bit like a thermostat versus a thermometer. A thermostat or a thermometer. It's like, do you want to be the kind of culture that sets the temperature in the room, or do you just want to read the temperature that exists when you walk in it? Because the best leaders set the temperature of their culture. They set the temperature of the culture that they want. So let's go to Chris. Chris has got a great question here. What role does money play in the metric? This is an excellent question because people are motivated by different things. So can you have an elite culture if team members are underpaid, or they can't, provide for the things that they need or pay for in their life? And I think the argument could be made that it could be very difficult to do. However, if you look at Chick-fil-A, you got a lot of people that live out their culture of an elite culture that get paid $12, $14, $15 an hour. So money can't be a reason that you don't have an elite culture. But I would just, if you're a head pro, I would certainly know that retaining people, particularly, they need to be at a certain band of competitiveness and for them to live in that area successfully. And I know that isn't always an easy thing to overcome, but it can be a part of the culture that exists in your organization. Great question, Chris. Cammie, thank you for the motivation. You're welcome, Cammie. I'm excited to be here. Here's Ryan. Ryan, how would you suggest tackling issues out of your control, such as staffing? So let's talk about staffing, because I know it's been an issue the last couple of years. A leader has two primary, every leader, no matter who you are, you have two primary responsibilities. You have recruiting and coaching. recruiting talent on your team, and then coaching the talent that exists in your organization. Doesn't matter who you are, you're responsible for that. So the question that I would ask Ryan or anybody listening is, if you're ultimately responsible for staffing, yes, you can have help and support, but what can you control around staffing? What you can control around staffing is creating core values that attract people to your pro shop. You can control defining your essential role attributes for the things that are really important to be in the roles in your pro shop, and then highlighting those attributes in your interviews. You can control getting people in, the right kinds of people that you want, with job postings or networking or whatever it may be. The things that you can't control is whether someone says yes. But you can control a lot more in the staffing part of your business than you give it credit for, than you give yourself credit for. And I would argue that if you have a track record of developing head pros, and you can point to, hey, we've had 7 pros move on to head pro jobs, you're going to be a lot more attractive than the club down the street that has had 0. So you might want to be talking about those kinds of things, Ryan, in the interview process. Well, I got one more here and then I'll wrap up. I know you guys have been so patient and great. Jake says, how often do you recommend staff meetings, and any advice for how to schedule them so they work for the entire staff, since hours are tight during the busy season? Thank you. It's a great question. There's a fantastic book out right now called Unreasonable Hospitality. Unreasonable Hospitality. It's written by a guy named Will Guidara. And Will Guidara highlights a restaurant in New York City called 11 Madison Park. I've never been. It's an expensive kind of $400 or $500 kind of place. But he goes down the journey of taking this restaurant from level 1, a 1-star restaurant, to a 4-star Michelin #1 restaurant in the world. And what Will Guidara says is one of the #1 things that helped them move up was what they call a pre-meal meeting. Every day before lunch and before dinner, the people that were on staff would meet for 30 minutes to get aligned around the mission, the vision, the values, the things that they're focused on, the things that are changing, who's coming in that day, et cetera, et cetera. And that often they would talk about things that inspired them to keep the staff going. And he credits that pre-meal meeting to what helped them move towards higher levels of excellence with both back of the house staff and front of the house staff. So I would say, Jake, your meetings with your staff, if done correctly, are some of the most important things that you can do as a head pro. Okay, let's do one more. Yannick, I don't know if it's Yannick or Janet. Probably Yannick. All right, last one. I promise I'm done. You guys are probably sick of hearing from me. When talking about the deficient culture, it was mentioned that the pro is at this facility for a long time. I'm sure it wasn't meant as a negative, but for some like myself that likes the facility and wants to remain there, how do we move up towards the lead? Okay, excellent point. Staying in a club is not a bad thing. It's an incredible thing. Look at Bob Ford. Look at some of the great head pros of all times, or even great head coaches in the NFL. They've stayed for a long time. I am all for longevity as long as you continue to get better. Am I a little bit better today than I was yesterday? Is my pro shop improving versus what we were doing previously? See, what happens when you're there for a long time, this could be in marriage, this could be in business, this could be as a head pro, is it has the opportunity to create complacency. And your job as a leader, particularly if you've been there a long time, is to root out that complacency, to burn it every single year. And to say, what are we going to do this year to make it better, to grow, to improve, to create a better experience for our staff and our members? This is it's just really hard. It's really hard. So that's why I did not mean it to be a negative, and I appreciate you bringing that up. If you've been at your club a long time and you're doing an excellent job and you keep growing and getting better, that is exactly what we want. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Thank you so much for having me, Sam.
That was great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know. If anyone's down in Charlotte area, you have my email. We'll be happy to help coordinate golf or anything that you need while you're here. This industry means something to me. It changed me. I had a head pro named really early on that made a tremendous impact on me named Tag Wiley. His dad was a head pro. His brother was a head pro. He was a head pro. And to this day, I credit Tag so much for helping me get to what I've achieved in my college golf and amateur golf career, because he put this mentality in my brain that winning starts in the mind. And so the work that you do matters more than you even know it. And so anything I can do to help this industry, I will.
Well,
Have a
thanks
wonderful
again.
day.
Yeah, thanks again. If you're up our way, please let me know. And again, I hope you do a great job, not only with your information, but your passion and your energy. Hopefully I can do half as good in the next segment of this seminar. So thanks
You'll do
again.
great. You'll do
Best to-
great. Have a
best-
wonderful day. Thanks for
Best to
having
you
me.
and your family.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
Great. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that, John. I thought that was really interesting type stuff from John as we get started for the upcoming season. And hopefully that, like I said, inspires and motivates and has us look in the mirror, and hopefully we can continue to get better. So as I head into the second part of the webinar, I want to talk about some of the things that I do at WeBurn to try to help create the culture that we have here. And again, I know all of you have some great ideas as well, so please weigh in as we work through this and or ask any questions. So one of the things that came up, and I'll just address it. It's really not part of what I was going to talk about, but I think Jake had mentioned about staff meetings. I'm certainly a big believer in staff meetings. I don't do them daily. I know some clubs will do morning lineups and so forth, but we're certainly busy and we're working long hours. But how I try to do my staff meetings, just as kind of a side note, is that I try to do them early in the season to try to bring whatever staff's here up to speed, kind of refresh and review kind of our policies and procedures and how we do things around the club. And then throughout the season, we try to meet at least once a week, and those will typically be maybe after a shotgun goes off, where everybody's kind of around the table for a little bit, or again, maybe just after their lunch hour, I'll try to grab them before, or their lunchtime before they go back out to the teaching tee. But I try to get those in as much as possible. Certainly keep everybody on the same page about upcoming events and what to be aware of. So I do feel that's very important. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about is the hiring process. How do we hire here at WeBurn? One of the things I would say, and it kind of leads into what John was just talking about, is that we hire people to develop and train them in hopes that we're going to promote them and they're going to leave for a better job. So that's kind of the foundation of our hiring. Again, how do we go about finding the right individuals? Certainly that has become more and more challenging over the last year or so, especially for me. I would say that one of the things that I do, again, kind of trying to retain the culture that we have and continue to move it forward, is that I try to make sure all of my staff members are involved in that process. So that can be as early as looking at the resumes to sitting down for the interview itself. One of the things that we try to do certainly is have a meal with whoever the potential hire might be. Again, if they're staying overnight, we might take them off property and go for some pizza and a beer and what have you. And then one of the other pieces that I like to try to do is I like to try to remove myself from that situation at some point. Either I'll head home or I'll go back to the shop if we're having lunch here at the club. And it gives everybody an opportunity to have a discussion as a team with that particular individual. And the one piece that I sometimes like about that is that individual certainly will tend to show their true colors a little bit more than if they're just in front of me. They're kind of feeling like they're with their friends or more their peer, and they'll tend to, again, let their true self come out. So I find that very helpful. You know, again, I'm trying to find individuals that will fit well into the team. I'm not looking to hire a superstar that maybe doesn't have the right personality or the right character traits that would fit in with our staff. So that's important. So again, we're not gonna kind of ruin the culture, ruin the team just to try to hire an individual just because of their credentials. One of the other things that I would say that is something that we, or at least that I'm a big believer of, is that my former boss Craig Harmon used to say that his hiring was to hire ladies and gentlemen first. We can always train them to be golf professionals. So again, what that really means is, regardless of kind of their golf expertise and their golf skill, if they're not a lady or a gentleman, they're really not going to be the right person to be a part of our team and to be a part of our culture. So, you know, again, that's all part of that interview process, and certainly trying to find out the best you can. So what are we looking for? We're looking for people with integrity, positive attitudes, curiosity to learn and grow, competent, genuine in who they are, and certainly have the hospitality gene. As we all know, we're in the service business, and we're going to try to make sure that everybody here is willing to serve and willing to do whatever it takes to be a part of that. A couple things that, again, get back to more what John was talking, and I have something here to share. Try to get it up here on my screen. It's about kind of hiring culture, why people work. You know, the articles of 2015 Harvard Business Review, how company culture shapes employee motivation. So I don't know if I can get in there, Noah, and try to share this.
So at the bottom, there should be a share screen
Yeah,
in green.
when it comes up, it says host
Oh,
disabled participant screen sharing.
let me make you a co-host. Okay, give it a shot now.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work. Yeah. All right. So again, these are the three, you know, three reasons people identify and kind of why they are most likely to work and to be a positive influence on your environment. They're broken down to play, purpose, and potential. Play is basically defined as when you're motivated by the work itself. You work because you enjoy it. A teacher at play enjoys the core activities of teaching, creating lesson plans, grading tests, or problem solving, how to break through to each student. Play is our learning instinct, and it's tied to curiosity, experimentation, and exploring and challenging problems. Purpose is when the direct outcome of the work fits your identity. You work because you value the work's impact. For example, a teacher, again, with education of children. And then potential is when the outcome of your work benefits your identity. In other words, the work enhances your potential. Again, for somebody who wants to progress their career from, in our situation, from assistant professional potentially to a head professional or director of golf or a director of instruction. And that's opposed to the negatives. Again, those three motives that I just mentioned, they're connected to the work itself in some way. And as direct motives, they will improve performance to different degrees. Indirect motives, listed below, however, tend to reduce it. Emotional pressure is when you work because some external force threatens your identity. If you ever use guilt to compel a loved one to do something, you've inflicted emotional pressure. Fear, peer pressure, and shame are all forms of emotional pressure. When you do something to avoid disappointing yourself or others, you're acting on emotional pressure. It's completely separate from work itself. Economic pressure is when external force makes you work. You work to gain a reward or avoid a punishment. Now the motive is not only separate from the work itself, it's separate
Sam,
from your identity.
just a heads up, you're not sharing your screen right now. I don't know if you're intending to or not.
Okay, sorry.
Just click on that green button at the bottom
Yeah. It must have, when I
and then click
switched.
on the screen you would like to share. And then on the bottom right, there should be a
Um,
blue share button.
say that again, Noah.
Click on the green share screen
Yeah, yeah.
button at the bottom.
Yeah, got it.
Then you should see pictures of your screens come up and just select the one you would like to share.
Did that first play potential
No,
purpose come up? It did
no.
not. Got it. Let me see.
There you go.
Yeah. Now let me see if I can find it. Sorry about that. If you can see this, this was the first screen.
Yep.
Does that come up? Okay, so were these were the three positives of kind of how company culture shapes employee motivation. These are the three positives. So let me go back in. These are the three that I'm talking about that they're really thinking about disappointment or the reward. So these would be emotional pressure. Sorry about that all. Is when you work because some external force threatens your identity. If you ever use guilt to compel a loved one to do something, you've inflicted emotional pressure, fear, peer pressure, and shame are all forms of emotional pressure. When you do something to avoid disappointing yourself or others, you're acting on emotional pressure. Economic pressure is an external force that makes you work. You work to gain a reward or avoid a punishment. Now, the motive is not only separate from the work itself, it's separate from your identity. And then last, and I think everybody can relate to this, inertia, when the motive is so far removed from the work and your identity that you can't identify why you're working. I don't know, I'm doing it because I did it yesterday and the day before, and that signals inertia. And it's still a motive that you're actually doing the activity, but you just can't explain why. So again, when you're thinking about the disappointment or the reward, those are the negatives of that. So so that's part of the hiring. That's part of the hiring piece. I think part of the other piece that I like to try to do when I'm at work, and again trying to build the team, is I try to create a culture of what I call nice, and that's obviously vague, but you know what, I'll try to identify what that means. Again, it goes back to that original comment of how I'm trying to hire. I'm trying to find somebody who has a pleaser mentality or that hospitality gene, somebody who's consistently polite, not only to members and guests, but to each other. That's part of that whole collegial environment. I'm looking for people with empathy, caring, compassionate, cooperative. I'm also looking for people with humility. We don't act like we know it all because we don't know it all. It's okay to say, I don't know. And then the last piece of it is, again, that sense of togetherness. At Weburn, I've been very fortunate, again, blessed with some great people that we've been able to identify in the hiring process, but we're not only co-workers, but we're friends at work and we're friends away from work. And it says a lot when you work the hours we work, and yet you're going to go play golf with them after work, or you're going to go for a pizza or a beer or whatever it is that you like to enjoy, but away from work. And I think that's really something that's special when you find that. And again, I certainly never want to hire that individual that certainly brings that down. One of the other pieces, that I think is so important about what we do is kind of the mentor development part of it. I'm a big believer in sharing responsibilities. Nobody's the tournament coordinator, nobody's director of instruction. Everybody does every job, and we rotate those on a yearly basis. I'm going to try to share the screen with you again, and Noah, if it doesn't come across, please let me know.
It works. You're good.
If I change this, does that come up?
No, I just see the education committee file with all of
Got
the,
it. Got it. I gotta go to another file, so, all right. Walking you through my life here. Does that pop up with the names on it and kind of responsibilities?
yeah, I see it's loading right now.
Got it. Let me know if it pops up. Did it pop up with some different staff names?
Not yet. I still just see all of the list of documents. Might be on the wrong screen.
Let me see if I can,
Click on that green button again.
I'm gonna try it again. Yeah. All
There you
right.
go.
Yeah, sorry about that. So this is again just how I distribute my responsibilities. These are staff members, golf shop manager, my wife, some of the professionals. And then typically what we do, like I said, is we will rotate these assignments on an annual basis. So the goal is, after you've worked, 3 years or 4 years, you're going to have touched every piece of the operation at that point. And so, again, gives everybody the ability to feel like they are important. We certainly don't micromanage them. We give them responsibilities from hard goods, soft goods companies to everything else that basically happens in a year. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. And again, I think it goes a long way to create an environment and a culture where everybody feels that they have great value and they add great value. Because again, we keep more of a horizontal org chart, I would say, in the sense that everybody's going to be doing pretty much everything. And then one other piece that I'm going to talk about here. And this is going to get more into kind of like what we do as a staff and the education that we do. So again, part of the, one of the unique things, and maybe not so unique, but we certainly try to touch all bases throughout a typical year so that everybody is not only prepared for the year, but for, potentially moving on and up. So these are some of the staff education that we'll do throughout the year. And this popped up, Noah, just to confirm.
No, it's just the list of documents again.
Sorry, I've been pretty good at this in the past, but maybe not so much. Still the documents, huh?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Or just
I'm gonna
drag the,
This is where I need my staff, and they all know this. So if I go to educational committee. Are there a list? No?
it's still the list of documents. If you click on that share screen button again on the green,
Mm-hmm.
see if the document pops up and then click that one. And then click the blue share button.
Yeah, the document. Sorry, let me see if I can get this document opened up here so I can pops up on the screen share. This should work. So bad. There
There
it
you
is.
go.
Good God. Sorry about that, everybody. But these are some of the educational pieces that we're going to try to touch base on in a particular year. So obviously there's career development, and that's kind of, I break it out into just goal setting, which we talk about as a staff to kind of get the year started. And we break that down into pretty much every area of the club, from locker room to tournaments to golf, junior golf, any of those type of situations. Obviously, we're working with staff on cover letters and resumes, especially as it gets to interview time, portfolios and presentations for the potential interview, and then obviously the interview itself, mock videos. My members are certainly willing and helpful in that process. We try to video those mock interviews so that the staff member can take a look and see how they use their language, kind of mannerisms and so forth. And then just leadership, we talk about hiring, training, mentoring, budgeting, both operating and capital, and then the staff evaluation piece, and then golf instruction, club fitting, Met PGA winter education series, coaches corner, philosophy. Just again, one of the things that we're looking at this year, we're trying to figure out how to invigorate our junior golf program. It's been so strong and robust, and whether it's conflicts with other junior sports, but we're trying to figure out kind of what that next level of kind of developing juniors and getting people better, what that looks like. Again, these are all part of, kind of our golf instruction program, TrackMan and club fitting. We'll have fitness. We've had a fitness professional in, and then, one of our staff members is good at club repair if anybody needs to kind of learn about club repair. And then back down to the golf shop type of pieces, from buying to product knowledge. Product knowledge is again part of our training each spring as we have new products coming in. Merchandising, I've got a great golf shop manager who does a nice job, and a couple staff members that really enjoyed bringing things to life. Customer service, that's all part of our kind of our staff meetings, talking about that. And then obviously just playing golf with members, tournament golf, winter series golf. And then some things that are kind of beyond golf, and that's everything this is more personal. It's about how budgeting, good debt, bad debt, 401k, company matches, Roth IRAs and SEP IRAs. Again, just trying to talk to the young men and women and all staff members really about how to be better, trying to save and budget so that they have money at the back end. And then I call it the morning read, and I'm a big believer in reading the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal to start my day, just to know what's going on in the world and if any potential members are in the news or whatever it may be. So those are all really things that I think help, again, develop our people. So I'm back here. So one of the other pieces that I wanted to talk about was that has been kind of the buzz of golf industry over the last year has been the work-life balance, and I think that's an interesting discussion. I think that's an evolution of who we are as professionals. But I would say the first thing is we're lucky we live in a seasonal part of the country. Obviously, the days are long in season, but certainly we have the spring, fall, and winter season to really recharge our batteries. I would say that we have a tendency as humans to exaggerate, the number of 80+ hour work weeks that we have, and I think we have to be careful with that. We do work long hours and we do work long days, but the most successful people, I would say, have worked a ton in their life. And so I think that, again, the idea of a 40-hour work week is not realistic, especially in our golf season, or 5 days. We're a big believer of that here whenever we can achieve it. And I would say that's more kind of spring and fall and winter. We don't really see it being very possible, very, very likely. I would say April through September, we run a tremendous amount of junior golf, as well as our tournament instruction and everything else that we're doing. But that's kind of that world. What I would say also is that I think the keys and one of the key pieces of our team and pieces of our culture is that if it's not a 5-day work week, we offer extreme flexibility to all staff. And what I mean by that is we're all in the pits together. We all, we'll all work together. When somebody has a wedding or a golf tournament or a family reunion, all the team members are here to cover for them, and we make that happen. And it's very rare that that's ever said no. Can't even remember. I had a new hire last year, but obviously that was one of the things he brought up in the interview, that his brother's wedding was over our member guest, and we made it happen. And again, these things are really critical, and I've been fortunate to be on the receiving end of that as well. My staff has covered when I've had my daughter's parents' weekend at college and different opportunities whenever I needed to get away. And the club understands that after this is my 24th year, but I've got a veteran staff of very capable and competent men and women, and I think that we're very fortunate to be able to do what we do, and that flexibility keeps everybody having a great time and a part of the team. One of the other things that we'd like to do is certainly give everybody up to a week off in August. It tends to be a little bit of a slower month, but kind of before we get busy again in September and October. And I think it's an important time. By the end of July, I would say that I'm pretty burned out myself, and if I don't recharge, it's going to be a little bit longer of a fall. So those are the things that, again, I think are really important to really creating a great culture and a great team environment. And kind of the last piece of it, I would say, is that, and John made mention of some of the staff trips, and I'm sure we all do that as head professionals or director of golf. I made a decision probably 12 years ago or so that, and my wife has been very willing to allow me to make some of these trips, especially when our kids were around and younger. But we've done some kind of life experience trips, I would call it. And what I mean by that is we've gone to Europe probably 4 times. Again, these are more like February type trips for the most part, but many times it's the first time a staff member's even needed a passport. So, and then, going in February certainly makes it economical. We played golf, and then one of the other pieces of those of you that have traveled through Europe is that we've done then trips from Ireland. If we were in Ireland, we've gone to France, and we've gone to Italy for just a couple day weekend, because you can do that pretty economically too. And you talk about an opportunity to get off campus and spend time with people. There's nothing like playing golf at Royal County Down or Port Marnock, or having a glass of wine and some pasta in Italy. So again, not everybody's able to do that, whether it be time or money, and that's been more of a senior staff kind of trip. But I really find that an unbelievable opportunity. We've gone to Bandon Dunes. We went out to the 2016 Ryder Cup. And then the last couple of years, I've been fortunate. One of my fraternity brothers is a member here at the club, and he has a place out in Big Sky, Montana. So we've done a couple Big Sky, Montana trips, and those also lead into trips down to Yellowstone. And again, just a great kind of team bonding experience. And again, it's not something that's really easy to do, but I certainly highly recommend it. And we do with our junior staff that may be more local stuff, playing some local great clubs or staying over at the casino, or my shop manager really doesn't play, but I've done some things with her, giving her and her husband a couple tickets to Florida to go visit their daughter, airline tickets, and just things like that. It just really says thank you for everything they do for my members and myself. So that's been part of the fun of it. But those are a little bit of what we do, again, to kind of create this culture at WeBurn, and really attract, and like I said, develop, retain, and then promote whenever those opportunities happen, our staff onto either other roles in golf, or certainly if golf is not going to be their future, certainly trying to do everything we can to make sure that we're helping them in whatever industry that may be. So that's pretty much what I have for today, but I'd like to, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Again, if you guys if you have some great ideas, I'd love for you to share them to the group. And I think, I don't know if John Hobbins is still on, or
I am, Sam.
I see one question from Jake about interview questions. The one interview question I like to ask is, it kind of puts them on the spot. I ask them, maybe 5 questions or 5 words that describe themselves. I think you can ask all the typical ones, but 3 words that really identify themselves as I find too easy. But by the time they get to 5, they're not only trying to count the words, but they're also trying to think of really words that tell you who they are, and I think that says a lot.
Sam, I thought John's idea of getting together as a group and then having your staff members share with you those 3 items of accomplishments, fears, that type of thing, where you get to know each other as people, and as John said, you become somewhat vulnerable so that people know that Sam Wiley has a fear, or that Sam Wiley has a goal, because sometimes I think as the head professional, if you're a staff member who's recently hired, you're afraid to ask those things, or afraid to interact at that level.
Yeah, I think those are things that I talk about. One of the things I do when I hire a new individual, I sit down with them and I walk them through, kind of our policies, procedures, and rules and so forth. And they're there just more for guidelines, but I really let them know that I'm here, my door is open, whether it be something that and they're also this precious set of eyes and ears on property. Tell me, what doesn't look right. Just because I've walked around here for 23, 24 years, things start to kind of blur into, maybe what I think is the right thing. But again, somebody who's coming from a club in Florida and they have a new, fresh perspective, I love to hear all that information.
Sam, so John gave us those 5 levels this morning of what a golf shop or a golf operation, or in my case, maybe instruction might be. So I thought it was very good to be able to identify that. And
Yeah.
so I was sitting here listening to John and think of ways that I might want to interact with, the people that I teach. And what happened this morning when you were listening to John? What is something that you would consider doing this season you may not have done in the past after hearing John's way to motivate people?
Well, first of all, I would say we probably have a level 4 culture, and I'm of that belief because, first of all, I think we can always be better, and everything we do is not a finished product, and that gives me great inspiration and motivation as I head into every year. But I like the idea. This was just one of his examples, if you will. See if you can lower members' handicaps. Again, I think one of the things we don't probably do enough, and that's part of what we were discussing with our juniors, is the metrics of improvement. And I think that's something that it would be kind of nice to kind of figure out what we could do to create that and follow that and track it. I think, and I would hope that those 4 elements of culture, of the safety, unity, positivity, and energy, I would hope that my staff and feel very good about those type of things. Obviously, there's some things in there that I think we could, again, continue to do better. But we love what we do. I love my people, and we have a great time doing it.
I think that idea of improving, because if you improve your members, in your case, or in my case, my clients, if you improve their performance, they're going to enjoy the game more. In your case, they're going to show up more to the golf course, bring out friends, maybe bring out clients, that type of thing, create, more revenues for the club in general. But what would you think of creating some kind of improvement league, maybe a 9-hole men's, 9-hole ladies, late in the afternoon, And will they show up on a regular basis, maybe work with the staff a little bit on the range or on the putting green, and then go out and play 9 holes, and the staff goes out and plays with them and do some things on course? Would that be something that would be of interest, do you think, to your
Well,
membership?
that's exactly kind of what we're talking about with our junior program. Certainly get more on course, and kind of maybe whether it be a supervised practice, what have you, and then again track kind of their progress and see how they're doing. I think part of the challenge is, and this would be an educational process, would be for our members, in that our members want to take a half-hour lesson or an hour lesson, and all of a sudden they're going to the first tee, and then next thing you see them 2 weeks later and they're like, it's not really working. And we're like, well, what have you practiced? Have you given it any time? Have you done the drills? And a lot of our people don't. It seems like everybody, not everybody, that's an overgeneralization, but there's such a large amount of people that just want to take a lesson and go play golf, and they think that's going to be a road to improvement. So I think that's something maybe as a staff that we could do better, as far as educating them about how to make and implement a change.
I think that's a good point, because I know that before I teach any of my new clients, I send them a video about learning and about how golf is a motor pattern of behavior that's created between the brain and the central nervous system. And all these things are covered in a video that's kind of comical to watch. But I think most people don't understand how they learn and how they make changes in their golf swing.
Right.
And I don't think teaching golf is difficult. I think what is difficult is getting somebody to do something enough times to change the motor pattern and have them not give up on it. It's like, you need to beat your head against the wall so many times to create the hole in the wall. And I think that's the challenge with golf instruction for me. I'm just wondering how you feel and what you see.
Yeah, and if they're not willing to do that, then because it takes a lot to make full swing changes. But again, if they actually do want to reduce their handicap, is there a way that we can get them more in tune to being better short game players? Because they're all going to need it regardless. Somebody hits 8 greens or 6 greens in regulation, it's hard to take them up to hitting the 12 greens in regulation. There's a lot that goes into that. But again, they're going to need to chip and putt and hit bunker shots a lot of the time. So they need to be, and that's something you can do. And I think you can make change with technique and make faster improvement there with, again, smaller swings faster, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I think because when you watch the tour each week, the best players in the world are missing greens. The best players in the world are hitting it in bunkers. The best players in the world are hitting it out bounds and hazards, right? And to watch their short games and how they save par when they make a mistake is really phenomenal. And I think you're right. I think that's the lowest hanging fruit, chipping, pitching, bunker play, 50, 75 yards and in. And that might, those might be classes in and of themselves where people, especially, when you're 15, 20 handicappers, which, probably account for, a majority of the club's memberships, where they can make progress.
Are there any other people out there on the call today that have any thoughts about maybe what they do that's different, that really helps create a great culture at their club? Like I said, I think that, I'm just one perspective on this thing, and John hopefully helps us, like I say, look in the mirror. But I'd love to learn from others. So
John Kennedy has a wealth of information. If he is still on the call, I know that he puts some ideas and questions in the queue. Or if you're still on the call, John, could you unmute yourself?
No, was he able to unmute John Kennedy?
I just asked if he would unmute.
Okay. Am I on mute?
Yeah. Hi, John.
Hey, Sam. Thank you and John for your time. And it was nice to listen to John. He made a comment which I felt a long time ago, is I always thought that I could hire people and train them and send them on their way. But the truth of the matter is you can't motivate anybody, but you can inspire them. And I think that, the example that you set, Sam, for your staff and for your members is really what makes you so powerful. And so I think as I get older, you know, the basics of a golf operation, everybody pretty much has down, but I think my perspective changes as I get older. And I think it's really all about giving to people. You know, you talk about how you love your staff. That's a pretty powerful statement. And I threw a couple things down there. I don't know whether it showed up, but I said mentors should share failures. John Hobbins mentioned that. So did that show up on a screen?
It showed up in the chat. It did show up here, John.
Yeah. So I think that's very important. You know, what John had talked about, where you sit down and you share your heroes, and also share. I don't have the notes here right now, but he mentioned 3 things, and I think that was a great way to do it. But just the whole idea that people really need to feel that they're part of, that they have a role, that they're respected. I'm reading a book by a guy named Stephen Post called Why Good Things Happen to Good People. And he's a psychologist out in Cleveland. And he said that, you know, I'm not sharing anything new. I'm just passing on what I've read. But he said that people's number one need is the need to feel respected. And I'll just tell you a story. This is, I mean, it has nothing to do with golf, but I think it has everything to do with being a person. So he was hired to work at Case Western, and a neurosurgeon took him to a state hospital outside Cleveland, where the most severely were kept. And he said, I walked in that room and it was awful, as you can imagine. He said, but 2 minutes into our visit, one of the patients came up and hugged this neurosurgeon who was in his early 80s. And he said, I think his name was Dr. O'Leary. He said, Dr. O'Leary. And he said, within 10 minutes, all the patients came up and hugged Dr. O'Leary, because at some point in the previous 30 years, he had showed them respect. He looked them in the eye and he listened to what they had to say, even though most people didn't respect these people. And so I think I guess that's my overarching thing, is if we can show respect to our staff, and if they feel that they're truly part of the team, we can make great strides. And that carries over for our relationships with our members and our families and so forth. So as an old person that kind of looks back, that's kind of what I wish I'd done a better job of.
John, I would say mature.
I had one other graphic that I didn't get up, but it was it's from McKinsey and Company from 2021 to 2022. Top reasons for quitting previous job, and number 1 was lack of career development and advancement. Number 2 was inadequate total compensation, and that's always a tricky one, because again, it's hard to really pay people as much as they want, or as they feel like they need. And again, hopefully that's part of their development and advancement. But then next, uncaring and uninspiring leaders, lack of meaningful work, unsustainable work expectations, unreliable and unsupportive people at work, and then kind of lack of workplace flexibility. So, all those are factors as to why people quit, but they're also why people, I think, lose their motivation and energy to work. So again, the better we can be at creating a great work environment for people, that's inspiring and helping them develop, because again, they're helping us. So we have to pull our weight as the director of golf or head professional, as the leader of that team. And again, that's all part of why we do what we do. And I love it. And that's why, back to John, Kennedy's comment, and just even why I talked to John Eades, is I like to look to people outside of the golf industry, outside of the golf business, because there are things that people do to lead and develop culture and inspire, that we can all learn from. Anybody have any other questions, John?
Yes, Sam, I think that's a really good point, because I volunteer time for different organizations, and each year I look at the time that I volunteer and what I do, and the ones that I'm most likely to volunteer again with and give my time and my efforts for are the ones that show me appreciation. That goes a long way for me, because I think John's point of, you know, whether I'm the person that picks up the range or I'm the person that cleans the carts, you know, I'm a vital part of the organization, and I deserve the same respect that that everybody else does, because I do the work that nobody else is doing, and without me, there are no range balls, or there are no clean carts, or, you know, the bag room's a mess. So I think it's really important to understand that each of your staff members is deserving of the same, not only loyalty, but respect. And to me, that's how you as a leader, Sam, are going to garner the respect of the entire staff. And not only that, you're mentoring the other staff professionals on how a successful operation operates, and, you know, and giving everybody their due respect. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I would say that carries over, not just that carries beyond our golf operation. And what I mean by that, again, it's, you know, when we go over to the clubhouse, either to have employee lunch or to, if we've missed lunch and we're ordering something off the menu, is I can't thank people enough, because I know they're busy, that, you know, that I have to pull somebody away and they have to place an order for me. And then when I pick it up, I thank the cooks that prepared it. And then when I drop off my dishes, or I see the dishwasher in the hallway or down in the employee area, you know, I thank them and I acknowledge everybody. I think that's, first of all, that's who I am. And, but at the same time, I think that carries across my staff. And again, not only because hopefully I've hired them, but we've spent a lot of time together, that they carry the same level of respect for all employees. And I think that's really important. Not only as a representative, you know, to my general manager, but to, you know, all the clubhouse staff and to the members that sees us interact with everybody that way. I think that's really vital.
That's a good point, Sam, because I've been to your facility, and we had an education meeting, and we walked into the room, and you went about getting us a locale, and the person who provided it brought us water and so forth, and you were very thankful and appreciative of that. And that impressed me, because it doesn't matter who the person is, they went out of their way for you, and you showed their appreciation, which I'm sure goes a long way with them. And the next time you're there, they're happy to see you, because they understand that you appreciate what they do each day, you know, beyond your realm.
For sure. No, I take nothing for granted, and my staff does the same. Like I said, if there's all of a sudden the weather changes and we have a mixed 9 and dine twilight, all of a sudden it's getting too cold or whatever, we carry all the tables in, we move all the silverware and the glasses or whatever, because I know that's going to be an inconvenience to them, but they appreciate that we just don't stand there and watch them do it, but we actually take an active role. And I'm sure, you know, most everybody that's on this call would have that same sort of mentality. Anything else?
I don't see any more questions in the queue. Sam, I think this was really a great idea that you brought to the education committee and followed through getting John for us. I think it's something we should look at going forward to see if we could possibly get John up here for the opportunity, one, to play some golf with us, which he would certainly enjoy. But I'd like to have John in person, possibly doing a seminar for us going forward. I think it would be well received. And I really liked a lot of his ideas, because he incorporated everybody in the queue. And I just like how John's personality goes about getting everybody involved and asking yourself the tough questions.
Yeah, he's got great energy. He's got great energy and enthusiasm. And again, what he does, helping leaders and others kind of develop and create culture, et cetera. And the fact that he has the golf background, I think is really, I think, great as well. You know, one other piece, John, that I'd mention, and, you know, we're never really able to get this off the ground, but it kind of leads to my, exploring kind of the best people outside of the golf business is back to that Jack Mitchell. And, you know, for those of you that are still on the call, I'm not sure who is or who isn't, but, you know, Jack Mitchell runs Mitchells and Richards, or he and his brother, Bill, were kind of the lead, and now they've transferred it down to their children. But he's got some great books, and I know he spoke in the section many years ago, but Hug Your Customers and Hug Your People, and all those type of books are very relevant to what we're doing. as far as creating a wonderful atmosphere for our membership and guests. But again, under Hug Your People, he talks a lot about all those type of things that really help you connect with your staff and really make sure they know how important they are to you. So I just end with that.
Yes, and I think that's a good idea. Maybe what we should do too, as part of our committee, is to get together, books like John has a book out there, and you mentioned Mr. Mitchell, and you're very in tune to things outside the industry to bring into the industry, because it's hospitality is much bigger than golf, obviously. And it might be a good idea for us to put a list of books together that we could share with our professionals through the section website, and give them the opportunity to explore and to share with their staffs going forward.
And I think that'd be good for everybody to share, maybe their
Yeah.
favorite book or favorite podcast or whatever that may be. And again, it can be golf, it can be outside of golf, but it'd be a good resource for section professionals to maybe just peruse and take a look at and listen in.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, because for those of you that don't know, the section is launching a new website. So, we still have our existing website now, and hopefully sometime around the spring meeting, everything will be done. It's being done, if you will, behind the scenes right now. And on the section website is a communications page. On the communications page are all of our golf professionals who are in the section, as well as all of their facilities. So if you need to contact any one of us, you're always welcome to go onto the website under communications, and you can pull up the name and or the facility, and you can find everybody's personal information. And by personal, I'm not talking about American Express credit cards, but I'm talking about emails and phone numbers. So feel free to do that at any time. Reach out to Sam, myself, to Noah, to Caitlin at the section office. We're always looking for ideas for seminars. We're winding down this season. I think we have 3 more here to go. And then we have, obviously our section spring meeting in April, as well as our educational seminar on the 25th. But we're always looking for ideas. So, if you have ideas of things you'd like to see in the future and topics that you would like covered, please share them with us, because the whole idea of the education committee is to help everyone gain some knowledge, to be a better golf professional, to be a better leader, to inspire your staffs. And as Sam has had the experience recently, to have one of your assistants become a head professional. So we haven't really talked much about that, Sam, but I'm very pleased to see your assistant move on. And you must feel very good about how you mentored him and how well he did in his interviews. And now he's one of your peer professionals, not only in the area, but as a head professional in the club.
I'm not sure who are you referring to. I think because I don't think anything happened just recently. I know Pat's still interviewing for one head professional position, but
Now, relative to them, do you work with them on these interview processes?
yes, absolutely. So I've cataloged a lot of stuff over the years, from whether it be resumes to questions from the PGA, from different headhunters to what have you, and obviously try to do everything I can to try to create a little bit of stress for them prior to the interview. And again, obviously, when you get in that interview room, you really got to own it. You really got to connect with people. And so how you deliver whatever information, it's got to be in an impactful way that you, again, connect, and people want to spend time with you, and they want your families to spend time for you. That would be the one thing I would say, that it's kind of the intangible that is not always easy to do, even if you have all the knowledge.
Do you feel like with the assistants who are trying to become head professionals and going through the interview process, the ability to be themselves in these interviews is probably one of the best traits they could bring to the interview?
Yeah, sure. But again, I think everybody's got a different personality. And I think, again, when you're meeting people for the first time in an interview room or an interview situation, it's difficult, again, for somebody who maybe isn't as extroverted or interview room appropriate with kind of their interaction. I think those are always a bit of the challenges. just the same it is for the guy or the gal who's overly extroverted. I think that can be, obviously a red flag and a danger too. Sometimes a personality can be too big for the particular room. So it's, that's all part of the hiring process. Again, I want to make sure that I hire the men and women that I think I can, that have the potential and have all the kind of the, all the pieces that can move on and move up. And that's what I want. Like I said, I don't want to hold people here for a long time. I want to have people kind of learn what they can learn and be a part of the team. And yeah, it's got, I'd say, more challenging. I'd say the environment is more challenging out there than ever. But, again, our goal is to try to help people get to where they want to get.
Are you set for the season with your staff?
As of now.
Talk to you in April.
Yeah, who knows? But these are all things, like I said, if something comes up, we're all going to cover for each other and get to where we need to. I mean, I think the hardest thing about if something happens now is that pretty much most of the people are in the positions that they want to be in. And if you are hiring in March, you are likely going to unfortunately create a little bit of an upset. You're going to upset an operation, and whether it be the assistant professional or whoever that's talking to the golf professional or the head pro that's having that conversation. It's not good or easy. You want to help. You want to have your people better themselves at every opportunity they get. But like I said, at certain points of the season, it gets a little trickier than others.
I would agree. Thank you, Sam. You did a great job this morning. I appreciate you coming up with
Thank
this
you.
idea.
Thanks, John.
John is fantastic. And we look forward to seeing everybody on Friday with Michael Breed. Thank you for attending.